So it is Sunday afternoon, and I am sorely lacking for inventory. So I'm gonna go drive around. I am a being of pure light. We're gonna get in the minivan of power and drive around my semi-suburban neighborhood and see if people have left stuff out on the curb. This is something that I've noticed happens a lot on the weekends. People just put out boxes of books and food and clothes and stuff. Okay, it's been like half an hour maybe, and this is now going to be a video about time management and avoiding certain pitfalls when it comes to work ethic in reselling. So here is what I have to show for this little adventure, and there really couldn't be a more perfect metaphor, visual metaphor, I don't think, for what has just happened. So, one of my biggest weaknesses as a reseller slash self-employed person is my undying love of dicking around and procrastinating on work and finding creative excuses to not do the actual productive tasks that I have to do. Had to change positions there, find a new spot, because there was an entire family just standing up on a driveway, and I'm not going to be seen just talking into a camera. Vlogging is a shameful activity. So anyway, so here's the big fix. Here's what you do. I think what the problem really is it's an insistence upon playing make-believe, like taking time away from work is not a big deal, or insisting on taking these little vacations, even if it's just for an hour, even if you're robbing your productive time of like an hour or two to, let's say, I don't know, watch Bigfoot eyewitness videos on YouTube, even small stuff like that, kind of digging your heels in and insisting on, I'm going to take time to waste. I'm going to insist upon wasting time because that's exerting some kind of sense of freedom or sense of personal agency, and it's a dirty flavor. The tedium, the dreariness of work is a bad feeling, but the feeling of not having worked is way worse. This creeping, curdling, eerie feeling of having wasted your time and thrown yourself under the bus and created problems for yourself is far worse than just kind of putting your head down and slogging through the stuff that you don't want to do. And I've consistently found that to be the case. And if you're in a fallow period where you're not being productive enough over the course of a few days, it creeps into your life as this feeling like somebody is just not like hitting you in the head with a hammer, but just kind of pressing the head of the hammer slowly but firmly into the back of your skull. Like, it creates this feeling of uncertainty and unsettledness, and in modern life you don't need more of that. You don't need to create more of that for yourself. I think it's just a case of blunt force work ethic plus a little bit or a lot of intelligence in terms of aiming the work in the right direction and working smart as well as hard. There's just not another option. I mean, if you choose especially to be self-employed as a reseller, you have to do it. You have to focus on the most productive tasks and do those. Depending on what your reselling model is, like, you have to repeatedly do the things, the most important things, and do them well in the best way that you know how, and do them consistently. And the consistency is the big part. So if you take these big breaks, you're cutting yourself off at the knees. You're creating all these problems for yourself. And I think this is not a rationale or an excuse, but my circumstance is a little different in that I'm hopefully on the path to recover from severe neck pain issues that have to do with poor posture and I think all the repetitive strain that goes along with every part of reselling. I've done it poorly. Point being, life tends to add these other contravening layers of difficulty and entropy to the already Herculean challenge of making money as a reseller, even when conditions are perfect. So I guess this is a motivational video more than anything, which is just to say, like, stop dicking around. As much as it's my favorite hobby to do, the feeling isn't worth it. The feeling of corrosion internally is not worth it. And I always find that to be the case. And yes, I have extreme issues with neck pain right now, but there are things that I could be doing that are more productive than driving around looking for trash. The one strategy that I have found that defeats this behavior is very simple, very effective. Beginning of your day, well, one, set an alarm to wake up at a specific time with the intention to work. That makes a huge difference, at least for me. It doesn't have to be 3 in the morning. You don't have to be Jocko, dick-ass Willings. You know, like 7, 8 in the morning, set an alarm, wake up at a normal person time, and jump into the work, and then set a timer on your phone for whatever amount of time it is that you want to work. I'm assuming here that you're a full-timer. If you're a part-timer, obviously, then you can make all the reasonable adjustments to what I'm saying. I did 8 hours. I would set a timer for 8 hours, and I would ship, source, and list for 8 hours. When I was doing it, it was mostly listing. Every time I stopped for any length of time to make a meal, or go on a walk, or do something other than work, I would hit pause, and when I came back to it, I would hit resume. So over the course of the day, I would accumulate the allotted 8 hours. I would often end up working overtime, so I would end up working 10 or 12 hours a day, just because you would get in the groove of working, and it takes the sting out of it. And when you do that for a week, it becomes normal, and it becomes much easier to stick the landing on that kind of a relatively long work day, versus if you were just kind of winging it, in which case you would, I think, not be nearly as productive as if you were doing this. That's the best thing that I've found. Set an alarm, set a timer, and then build up some macro momentum of doing this a lot, and you will have a good work ethic. It's the roller coaster of taking breaks, of being productive in spurts, and then stopping and kind of relaxing back on your laurels, and then trying to start the engine back up. That's what's really killer. It's much easier emotionally just to preserve that level of work and not stop. And that alleviates this worry, this feeling of irresponsibility, which is, for whatever like cheap kind of relaxation or amusement you can get from procrastinating and doing something else, that feeling is much better for your mental health. It's just a better way to live, and it's a more upright way to live, and you will be more truly relaxed, more truly confident, and you just have to do it. You just have to do it, especially if you're full-time. These are just my thoughts, observations, and admonitions based on my own experience. I'm not nowhere close to a productivity expert. This is just my experience based on having done this for a few years and observing myself semi-objectively. All right, hope it helps.